Folks, this country, we are so divided that either way, either we are spiraling towards another civil war unless something terrible happens to this country that actually unites its citizens again. Either way, we have dark times coming. And you can feel it in the air now, can't you? You may not be able to put your finger on it, but you know things are different after this last horrible assassination that happened. Now, I don't normally make prediction videos, but I'm going to boldly make it in this video that I predict that we are headed towards a civil war, and the first domino towards that civil war has already fallen. And before we talk about the signs that I am seeing that is telling me that we are headed on the fast track to a civil war, before we talk about those signs, hey, first for new viewers, welcome to my channel. This channel is all about prepping and self-defense, so if you like information that the mainstream media typically ignores or hides, then please consider hitting the thumbs up button and also subscribing to this channel. And also don't forget, platforms like YouTube were either flat out banning or throttling channels that either question the 2020 election or question the narrative on COVID. So it's reasons like that I also have my Rumble channel, because Rumble does not stifle free speech. So to find my channel on rumble.com, simply search Ethical Preparedness in the search bar. So here is sign number one that leads me to believe that we are on the fast track to civil war, and that is because I am even seeing, again, even politicians now saying that we are too far divided to unite, and they don't even want to unite with the far left side. You see, in the past, when something terrible would happen, both sides would at least actually say, hey, we need to tone things down. Hey, we need to take a step back. That was a terrible thing that happened. We don't want that to happen again. Hey, we're still all Americans, and I am not seeing that after this last assassination. With this last assassination, all I'm seeing is the left going further left and people on the right saying we cannot unite with people on the left that are acting like that. And to be fair, I cannot unite with a group of people that celebrates when somebody that's not actually killing anybody, but when a group of people celebrates their assassination, a father with a wife and young children, when they celebrate that assassination, I cannot unite with a group of people like that. I also cannot unite with a group of people that believe that men can be women, or that grown men dressed in women's clothing should be reading new bedtime stories to children, or that biological men should be using the shower or the locker rooms with teenage girls. I cannot unite with groups of people that are like that. And here is the next pathway to civil war that I am going to boldly predict. And I believe that each time a president of the opposite party gets elected, that next president is going to swing super hard back to the opposite way of the opposing party president that was before him. Just to kind of give an example, right now President Trump is president, and he is doing mass deportations. He has ordered that the government only recognizes male and female genders. I mean, he's basically doing everything that the leftists absolutely hate. Oh, and speaking about Trump, I also think that pretty soon he is going to start having politicians that did illegal or questionable things to persecute him while he was running for president. I think he's going to start having them arrested, and I also think he's going to start having violent leftists arrested too. Now, whether these arrests and court trials will be justified or not justified, that's a whole topic for another video. Let's just stick with the fact that I believe in our very near future we are going to start seeing politicians that lied or fabricated evidence to persecute him while he was running for president. I think, again, he's going to start having them arrested. And then with those violent leftists that get arrested, well, we all know how the far left reacts when their own gets arrested. Now, when the conservatives get upset, we hold vigils, we pray, we peacefully protest and stuff like that. But when the violent leftists get upset over an arrest or something like that, they have a tendency to burn down cities, to attack people that's maybe wearing an American flag shirt or has an American flag on their vehicle or things like that. And kind of going back to the political opponents being arrested, many of us warned the liberals that that was not a smart idea to go after Trump legally, to criminally charge him and actually have him booked in and essentially arrested with a mugshot and everything like that. A lot of us warned the liberals that you don't want to do that because that's going to open up a Pandora's box where there's more than likely going to be a tit for tat. So every 4 or 8 years when there's a new presidential run, we are going to see politicians getting arrested just as political persecution. But here is where the next domino leading towards civil war will happen. When we do eventually end up with a non-conservative liberal president in the future, and they start having their political opponents arrested again like they did to Trump, obviously the conservatives are going to stand behind their people that are getting arrested and politically persecuted. And then when liberal politicians start getting arrested, obviously the liberals are going to stand behind their politicians. But we're going to start again seeing back a tit for tat back and forth of arresting political opponents and politically persecuting them, just like we see in banana republics today. But again, these political arrests are just going to further divide us apart more so than what we already are. And then again, when the next liberal president gets elected, then that president's going to swing back hard to the other side where we're going to see more political persecutions, men being allowed back into the locker rooms, men being able to claim that they're women, drag queens reading bedtime stories, just again swinging back hard to the left. And then when the next conservative president gets elected, again swinging hard that way, again just dividing us further and further and further apart. And then here's the next domino that will fall leading us towards our next civil war. And I've said this in a past video before, and I 100% believe that it's true, but I believe that each time a new president gets elected and that president swings hard to the other side, that liberals that live in conservative states are going to move to liberal states, and then conservatives that live in liberal states will move to more conservative states. And again, that's actually going to make states either more liberal or more conservative, more so than what it already is. And I think that in the future, sometime not too distant future, there will be no such thing as a swing state. I believe that our states will either be solidly conservative or solidly liberal, again, deepening that divide. And to kind of explain why I believe that conservatives will flee liberal states and move to conservative states, and liberals will flee conservative states and move to liberal states, is just think of it this way. If you are a conservative and you are living in a liberal state and there's a liberal president of the United States, and that state is allowing biological men into the locker room, or you wear an American flag, you have an American flag on your vehicle, and Antifa attacks you and you get in trouble if you try to defend yourself, you are going to get tired of being stomped on like that, and you're going to flee that liberal city or that liberal state, and you're going to move to a more conservative state that aligns more with your beliefs. And then on the flip side, if you are a liberal living in a conservative state, and then every time your Antifa buddies try to riot, they actually get arrested and put in jail, or you cannot get your abortion on demand, or you think that men should be able to identify as women and use the girls' locker room, when you can't have all that, eventually you're going to get, as a liberal, that liberal's going to get tired of that, and they're going to flee that conservative state and again move to a more liberal state where they're going to feel more safe. And again, making states more liberal and more conservative, again, more dividing us. And now, instead of being just cities versus rural areas, I mean, I think again, your states themselves and the government of those states will be more solidly liberal and more solidly conservative. So what I'm seeing here is people choosing sides, like especially after that horrible assassination. I mean, most people either came out and said, that was wrong, that was an assassination, or the leftists just came out and celebrated it. Again, people are just getting more and more divided, even when something horrible like that happens. And then as the states themselves become more liberal or more conservative, you're going to see the states becoming more divided apart from each other. Again, right now we are still technically the United States of America, but my fear is that sometime in the not too far distant future, we're not going to see our states united anymore. So anyways, once we reach the point where states are either solidly liberal or solidly conservative, and we're seeing a lot of political assassinations and also a lot of political arrests to try to, so that way they can defeat that person instead of using the election polls. I think once we start seeing all that commonly happening on a regular basis, there's just going to be something that just needs to create a spark that's going to cause that explosion that will be the Civil War. Something that will be that shot that will be heard across the United States. And what my prediction will happen will be that a sitting president, whether he's a liberal or a conservative, but a sitting president will issue some kind of an executive order, and half the states or numerous of the states will not abide or agree with that order, and they will refuse to comply with that executive order by the sitting president at that time. And then what will happen is that the president will send in law enforcement or troops to try to force that state to comply with that executive order, with that law, or whatever it is that gets passed. And then a shot or shots will get fired and people will die, and then that will just ignite that explosion that will just spread from there. So that is my prediction. Unless something terrible happens to this country that unites us, I see us growing more and more divided. Not just the people divided, but the states divided themselves. And then a sitting president will do something that will anger half of the population, and then violence will erupt, and that again will just ignite that explosion that will just travel across this country, putting American against American and state against state. And by the way, folks, if I look really rough and dirty today, hey, please excuse me. I was digging post holes earlier and I got really hot and sweaty. But anyways, folks, what did I miss in this video? What can you add to this video? Comment down below with your thoughts on this. And folks, in a post-collapse situation, a simple scratch on your finger can become infected and lead to your death in a situation where you just can't run to the hospital or to the pharmacy. And to see a whole playlist of different videos where you can use the simple plants that grow around you that can fight stuff like skin infections, high blood sugar, high blood pressure, and a whole bunch of other elements that you will still face in a grid down situation, then click on the video that should be appearing on the screen just about now to learn what most other preppers don't know. Anyways, folks, this is enough internet for me today. I do actually need to start cooking my dinner, but folks, if you made it this far, hey, thank you very much for watching, and I pray that you have a good night.